All right, so we're going to go ahead and dive right in today to social media planning. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Just a second. All right. Oh, just a second here. I'm going to pull up my other notes. All right. All right, as I'm pulling these up, again, as we talk about planning, is there anyone that has a good example of a time in their life that they planned and that has made something go more successful? There's probably a lot of examples out there. All right, let me pull up the notes
I had a
here.
friend that had a memory.
Oh, what did you say?
I said I had a friend who had a New Year's party that made memory boards.
Uh-huh.
Not memory boards, but a planning board, I guess. And we cut out things of what we wanted, and it was a great. It wasn't a New Year's resolution. It was kind of a plan for your next year.
Right, and by taking the time.
Some of it happened, but then COVID hit.
Yeah, and taking that time to actually set a plan can be so valuable, and I hope that's what we take away from today.
We taught school, so we did lesson plans for years.
Lesson plans. Yes, that's a good type of planning, right?
And we had to pin it down to, we had 40-minute classes, so we had to pin things down to how many minutes of each
Wow.
thing.
So that was a lot of work to come up with those lesson plans, right, Janet?
Oh, yeah.
But once you did it, was actually doing the lesson easier?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
You had a roadmap.
That's great. I didn't think of lesson plans. That's a good thing. All right, so let's talk about our social media planning. So this number one, having a social media strategy in place will ensure that your social media efforts are more fruitful and are working to support your broader business goals. So next week, our topic is really setting those goals. And so I hope you join us again next Wednesday as we talk about these goals and using the tools that you learn here, using the rest of the tools through the Native 360 and their Initiate program. I really hope that, these tools will help you to reach your goals here. So today we're going to be talking about what's on our social media plan checklist. So we need to understand our targeted audience, optimize posting times, develop quality content, and create a calendar. So if we look at some statistics here, you become 42% more likely to achieve your goals simply by writing them down on a daily basis. Now, when we talk about writing them down, oftentimes at Tally, we say, even if that's on a Post-it note or the back of an envelope. So yes, you can get a fancy, goal setting notebook, or maybe you want to make a beautiful sign to hang on your wall. But even writing a goal down on the back of an envelope or on a Post-it note, even at that, you're 42% more likely to achieve your goals. Now, this next thing is really interesting as well. You become 76% more likely to achieve your goals if you discuss your goals with others. Again, think of any time maybe you've tried to become more healthy with a workout plan, or you decided that you're not going to drink soda for a month. If you tell people that, you become accountable. So if you tell your spouse, I'm not going to drink soda for a month, this is my goal, it's going to be a lot harder for them not to say something when they see you with a soda in your hand, right? So when we talk about social media planning, the first thing we want to do is really think about what our goals are. What is our goal of social media? And there are a couple of different goals. One goal of social media can simply be to bring awareness, to let customers know your who, what, where, when, why. That is one goal. So when we start talking about topics here and content, one of the things you can think about is, have I shared my who, what, where, when, why? And if you haven't, those could be your beginning of your post. So kind of talking about that is one way to kind of go through that. But thinking of your target market, who are they? What do they want to know about you? And starting to just develop what your plan is, what your target is. Maybe your goal for social media is to sell more. If that's it, your post might be a little bit different than if it is simply just to bring awareness. All right, so let's talk about first our target market, our target audience. Now, when we talk about target audience, there's a couple different ways we can think about that. But a social media target audience is a group of people that you've identified that you want to appeal to. This can be based on demographics such as age, job title, income level, education, location, or behavior. Your social media target audience consists of people who are most likely interested in your product. So when we talk about your target audience, the reason that is so important is because we really need to adjust the tone of voice that we're speaking on to our target audience. So if you're trying to reach just your everyday person, maybe to come into your store, just the person that just happens to be walking by, our tone of voice is going to be much more conversational and at a lower, we call them education level, than if I'm trying to attract maybe college professors. I may speak at a different level of education. My words I use might be a little bit different. And so that can adjust our tone of voice. So let's go down to this orange box here. Your tone is a general vibe of your brand, which influences the kind of language and imagery that you use in your social media conversations. So how can your tone influence your posts? It can influence with what kind of words you use, the coloring of your graphics or images, and the emotional responses. So this is just one example that we took directly from the Native 360 Initiate tools that talks about the text that you write, gives off what kind of tone of voice and what kind of impression. So if my tone of voice is, hey, come check this out, swing by, I'll be here till 10, that's going to be a very casual tone of voice. And that's going to be very different than schedule an appointment today for a consultation. Can you see how I kind of said the same thing, but in two very different tone of voice? So you're going to want to make sure that the tone of voice you're using matches your target market. If you talk very casual, very, hey, whenever you get a chance, no rush, no worries, you're naturally going to attract a more laid back clientele. So let's say that you use a voice of, hey, swing by when you get a chance. Now, let's say that that person comes 2 minutes before you're about to close your doors. You really can't get upset about that because the tone of voice that you used was very casual and laid back, like you would with a friend, like swing by when it's convenient. But if you really want someone to schedule an appointment and come and be respectful of your time, you're going to need to say, we close at 5 p.m. Our last appointment is at 4:15. If you say that your last consultation appointment is at 4:15 and they come 2 minutes before you close, then you set a different level of expectation. And so just really keep that in mind as far as the tone of voice that you're setting and just making sure that it is how you want it to be set. All right, I'm going to go back and share my screen here for just a second. All right, the next thing that we're going to talk about a little bit is your target audience topics. So if the topics you are covering don't interest your audience, your engagement and following will suffer. So how do you identify relevant topics? Research topics currently trending on social media, research keywords related to your industry or business, and ask your customers what they're interested in. So you're going to want to make sure that the topics that you talk about are also topics that your audience cares about. If all of a sudden you have something and you're just not getting the engagement, we're going to talk about that here in a minute. You might want to change your topics because maybe the audience that you're attracting, those aren't relevant to them. All right, do we have any questions here for just a second over the social media side or the target audience? I know that we talked about target audience a little bit when we talked about our business plan. Does everyone feel like they have a pretty good idea of who their target market is, or maybe who you want your target market to be? Are there any questions over that before we go on? Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to this next topic here. Just a second. All right. Next, we're going to talk about understanding your target market. These are just a few other areas kind of continued from that last page that we're going to talk about. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but if you're not sure who your target market is, or if you wanted to find it a little bit clearer, these are some areas you can use: your demographics, locations, subcultures, supercultures, needs, attitudes, their personalities, their lifestyle, fans, and customers. So maybe you right now are targeting, well, let's just talk about location for a second. So let's say that you're targeting the town that you live in. Well, you could get a new target audience that's maybe the one town over. And how are you going to target that? Maybe your communication on social media is going to say it's only a 10-minute drive. So that is going to target those people in. Like, for example, I live in Grand Island, Nebraska, and people often think to only target Grand Island, or we have a couple towns at Kearney and Hastings, and people often say, well, I'm going to target those areas. But if the two towns nearest have the same amenities, those might not be the best locations to target. Maybe we want to target something 30 minutes the other way that doesn't have the same amenities we have. So let's say that I have a restaurant and I say, well, I'm going to target people that live 30 miles away. Well, instead of going 30 miles to the next town that has restaurants, what if you shift your target a little bit and you look at another town 30 miles that maybe you're the closest restaurant, and then do some targeting on there? And they might not be your target market to come every day, but maybe they're your target market to come on a weekend or for a date night or for a special occasion to celebrate a birthday. So just kind of shifting your target market based on location. So that's just one idea. All right, we're going to go to this next piece here. Let's talk about optimizing your posting times. This is one of the most frequently asked questions when we talk about social media. People often want to know, when should I post? Now, posting content when your followers is online is one of the simplest way to improve your organic reach. Anytime we talk about being organic, that simply means free. So this is, how do we increase our social media presence for free? One of them is optimizing your posting times. So this is just a quick example. On Facebook, industry-wide, the most interaction times happen Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. On Instagram, it's really Monday through Friday, and 11 a.m. is the most interaction time. On Twitter, it's Tuesday and Wednesday between 9 and 3. Now, this is just kind of a guideline. And I always recommend, think about what time you're on social media and what time your target market is on social media. So let's say your target market is busy moms. So think about, rather than just using that general rule, think about what time of day are busy moms on their Facebook page. It's oftentimes like once the kids go to bed, maybe right around that 9:30 time. Sometimes busy moms are on social media around 3 o'clock while they're maybe sitting in the pickup line waiting for their kids to get out of school. Maybe it's like 8:45, right when they drop kids off and finally have a second to breathe. So I would just really encourage you, if you are a business that markets to business professionals, you really need to think about, are these business professionals on social media during the business day? Maybe they are. Or are they so busy at their job, or maybe they work out in the field or they're driving vehicles and they're not on social media till at night. So again, while those on the worksheet are kind of industry standards, you really should take some time and think about my target market, what works best for them. And feel free to ask your friends and family who maybe fit into that demographic. What time of day do you check your social media account? I always recommend as well when it comes to time that if you are a business that offers pretty strict business hours, to post during those business hours. Because if all of a sudden you're posting at 8 o'clock at night, you're kind of putting the impression, even if that's scheduled, that you're working at 8 o'clock at night. So people might want to reach out to you at 8 o'clock at night. And if you don't respond to their email or answer their phone, they might get frustrated. So I would really recommend that if you are a business that holds pretty strict business hours, post during your business hours. Because if you post something that might say, oh yeah, I meant to call that person, and they might call you right then and get frustrated that you're not answering the phone. So again, if you don't want to be open on Sundays, I would recommend not posting on Sundays, because you're leading people on to think that you're working, even if it's pre-scheduled. Does anyone have any questions about that scheduling time or any aha moments when it comes to that? All right. Go ahead and share again. Next, we're going to talk about developing that quality content. So content in a nutshell is anything that you put out there, whether it's photos, graphics, charts, videos, text, whatever you put out on social media, that's your content. So there are people nowadays that are professional content creators. That is a new profession that wasn't necessarily around outside of newspapers and magazines years ago. So there are a lot of people that are content creators just for social media. And so let's talk about, because we're really learning that the quality of the content you're putting out there is very important. Let's look at these statistics for a second. 57% of consumers want to learn about new products or services. 47% of consumers stay up to date on company news. 40% of consumers want to learn about promotions or discounts. And 40% of consumers want to be entertained. Now, this entertainment piece is something that's a little bit different, because think about when you're on your social media account, when you're on Facebook, what do you want? What are you looking for? What makes you stop scrolling? Is it industry news? Is it a discount code or a coupon? Sometimes it's just something really funny. Have you ever watched a video of a cat getting their head stuck in a cereal box or something that's just silly? And that makes us stop and makes us look. So oftentimes with social media, people just want to be entertained at the end of the day. And so just keep in mind that while we have so much information to share, and we're thought leaders, and we have great products we want to talk about, sometimes people just want to be entertained, and that's okay. And by doing that, you're going to increase your engagement. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. So really take some time and think about, when you're on social media, what do you want? And that might remind you of what your target market wants as well. So when it comes, besides the text that we put on social media, there's 4 other types of content that we use. There's graphics. So using detailed illustrations or graphics and minimal text to capture attention. That could be something as simple as a pie chart like this. We use photos, a mixture of, we call them stock photos, or photos that you can purchase online. And then also just pictures you take on your cell phones. We use a variety of images. We can use videos. Videos have about 10 times the engagement of photos. And so keep that in mind, even though none of us like to hear our own voices on videos, and they're always hard to make, but even a video made with your cell phone, as you're walking around your business talking, will on average get 10 times the engagement as your photos. So as you're thinking about promoting your business, oftentimes you think, oh, I don't want to do a video. I hate the way I sound on video, or I don't feel like I do a good job, or sometimes I stumble over my words. Sometimes you have to think about what's best for your business, what's best for your bottom line, what goals are you trying to reach? And sometimes that might push you to step outside your comfort zone and make that video. Now, the last piece on here is articles. Now, make sure that the article, not only are you sharing an article that you feel like is good, but make sure that you give your own take on the article. Now, whenever we talk about articles, we always say, make sure you read the full article and make sure that you agree with it. Because if you share an article, you're telling people that I agree with what this says and I'm endorsing it. And so oftentimes it's easy to just see the headline and think it's kind of catchy, and then we share it. And then somebody all of a sudden questions us like, really? You really think that maybe it's a 10 ways to do something? And someone might say, you really think number 8's a good idea? And then if you go back and say, oh, I really didn't read all the way down to number 8. So just make sure that if you share an article that you've read the full article and that you agree with it. Because by posting it, you're saying that you do. And so don't take the easy way out and just read the headline and post it. That can get you in some big trouble. All right. And sometimes people say, well, I don't want to share other people's articles because that's their original content. It absolutely is. And we always want to give the person who wrote the article credit and source where it came from. We never want to claim it as our own work. But it's also good to share articles, again, as long as you can give your reflection piece on that. Does anyone have any kind of questions over the type of content before we move on? All right. Next, we're going to talk about a social media calendar. So why should we use a social media calendar? Well, creating and implementing a social media calendar can positively benefit your business. It helps keep track of what's performing so you can upkeep your content quality. You can upkeep your content quality and consistency. It keeps your channels from poorly timed posts or missing posting dates. It can help prevent overloading a social media network and neglecting the other. And it prevents you from poorly researched or written posts. So we're going to talk about kind of different types of calendars, but why it is so important. So let's go back to that example that Janet gave us of making lesson plans. Now, when you create lesson plans, and let's say you do it for a full week, or let's say you get really on top of it and you do it for a full month. Janet, did you have to submit your lessons plans at a month at a time or a semester at a time? How far in advance did you have to plan your lesson plans?
A week at a time.
A week at a time. Okay. But when you had a whole week planned, you could really look through and kind of see where you have maybe had overlap or missing gaps. Would you say that?
Oh, Janet had to go. She's got a phone call from Small Business Administration.
No problem. Yeah, you can go ahead and mute yourself again. That's okay. Thank you. So yeah, when you create any kind of calendar, you're able to kind of look at it with a big picture, a bird's eye view, and you can kind of see where things overlap or where things are maybe gaps. Let's say that you plan your suppers out for a whole month. If you can do that, you can really see, okay, where are we doing Italian? Where are we doing a Mexican inspired dish? Where am I doing leftovers? And all of a sudden you can kind of start to see that patterns that arise. And maybe you want to switch things around. So maybe you have lasagna, spaghetti, and tortellini 3 nights in a row. Okay, maybe that doesn't sound too good. So once you have your whole calendar for a whole month, it's a lot easier to make those fine adjustments and really look at it and feel confident that over the course of the month, this is going to work out well. So again, starting maybe with 1 week, but eventually having a goal to move out maybe to a full month. If you get ambitious, maybe a whole quarter in advance, and that'll really help you see those holes. The other nice thing is when you plan out that far in advance, often there's content that you can duplicate. So just like if you planned out a full, let's say you planned out a full month of meals, once you do meals for week 1, 2, 3, 4, oftentimes you can take week 1, put it at week 5, maybe switch things around a little bit, but that's far enough away that that content can start recycling, but it's not, it's far enough down the road that your target audience is not going to notice. All right, so let's talk about that calendar just a little bit. So we do a simple here at Tally. We have a lot of strategies for doing social media management. We actually create content and manage content and post it for several clients, but we do it in a tone of voice and for a targeted market that looks, it's specific for them. So even though we may be posting for up to 10 companies at a time, if you went to their page, you would not be able to tell that it wasn't them, because we are very careful about creating content and a tone of voice that's unique to that customer. So when we talk about that calendar, the things that we typically do is we create a label that talks about what kind of post is it. Is this simply entertaining post? Is it educational? Is it engaging? Is it a soft sale or a hard sale? So that's right here with that label. The second thing we do is we talk about the content. What is it? This is just a real quick, are we talking about, let's say that we have a clothing boutique. Are we talking about our jeans this day? Are we talking about our perfume? Are we talking about our gift wrapping? Are we talking about gift cards? Are we talking about our kids' clothes? So it's just really a quick keyword of what kind of topic we're talking about. Then third thing is we might talk about which platforms we're going to use this on. So if you are on more than one platform, I know a couple of weeks ago, we really encourage you to focus on one platform first, but let's say that you are on Facebook and LinkedIn, or maybe you're doing Instagram and Facebook. Really noting, is this a post that we want to be on both platforms, or is this just specifically for one? Kind of like we talked about last week, some types of posts you can put on multiple platforms and they work just fine. Now, some types of posts, we don't want to do that. So if our post is very casual, it might not be appropriate for LinkedIn. If our post is simply text, it's probably not going to be appropriate for Instagram. And so while some posts might work seamlessly across different platforms, there's going to be other posts that we maybe are only going to want to put on one or the other. All right, so once we kind of have a overview of what kind of post it is, what the topic is, and then which platform we're going to be on, then we move into a more specific. This we typically do in like an Excel document. So on here, we oftentimes put the date that we're going to post that post. We'll even put the time that we're going to post it. Remember when we talked about what time of day to post? So as we're doing our planning, we're going to say this post is going to come out at 8:26 a.m. because I've already thought through that at 8:26, my target market, maybe they already got to work and they're kind of settled in. And maybe that's their first time they go get coffee and that's when they're checking their phones. Or maybe that's when their bathroom break is, or maybe that's when they're leaving from one thing to the other. Now, one trick when we post times is we always try to do a time that's a little bit organic or natural. So rather than posting at 9 a.m. every morning, let's say that we want to post around 9 a.m. We might do 9:02, 9:06, 8:58, just so that when people see your Facebook page, even though we pre-scheduled these out, it's going to look a little bit more natural than if it was 9 a.m., 9 a.m., 9 a.m. We don't want to look like a robot. So even though we're doing this planning and we're doing this scheduling to take a lot off of our plates, we still want it to feel natural. We want it to feel like, oh, hey, I just got out and happened to post at 9:02. Even though if we've done our work right and we've already pre-planned it and we've already scheduled it, we could be we could be driving at this time, we could be at work, we could be in our shop, and we're not on social media, but we want it to appear that way. Does anyone have any questions about kind of making it look organic, or does that make sense on why we'd want to do that? Great. So the next thing that we do, besides selecting the date that we're going to post it and the time that we're going to post it. So on ours, I don't know, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We do the day, as in the day of the week, the date, the time. We do the message of exactly what we're going to say. If there is a link or a photo, we're going to link that here. What category it is. Again, so this is just our real quick topic. And then if there's an image, we put that here. So let's say that I plan out this whole month. So let's say that this is the month of January. By the end of it, I will have everything pulled out. And then all I have to do when I'm ready to post is simply copy and paste. Now, depending on how much of a planner you are and how much you like Excel or other programs like that, sometimes we'll even do a word count. That's kind of an advanced category that we'll put in there, because we want our message to switch up. So there may be some posts where we only want 5 words. It might say, can't we wait to see you this weekend? And then maybe our next post is going to have a full paragraph. Then maybe our next post is going to have a sentence. And then our next post is going to have 2 sentences. But then we want to make sure that if that's kind of our rotation, maybe we want to again just go back to a simple one or 2 words. So you want to have some fluctuation on even the amount of words you use. You're not going to want to put a paragraph every single time, because while a paragraph might be interesting and appropriate at some times, it might be far too much text for other times. So make sure that you're even switching up your word count, and that can be one way to do it, is to actually create a column where you either let the computer or you personally count the words that you're posting. All right. And that's really, so kind of the next step after you have this all scheduled. Another reason why we really like to schedule is because when we talk about that tone of voice, it really helps you get into your tone of voice. It really helps you kind of get in the groove. We always talk about when you're going to create your social media content, we want it to come from a good place when you're having a great day and you're in the right tone of voice for your company. So that's another benefit of pre-writing these. Now, it is not a good time to post on social media after you just got off the phone with an angry customer who is arguing with you over something that is totally bizarre and you did it right and they don't know what they're talking about, because oftentimes that tone of voice can come across in your writing. And so when we pre-plan social media, kind of like if you meal prep or if you do anything else, you kind of need to get in the right tone of voice. So we always say, put on some kind of music that helps you get in the vibe of what you want your business to be. Maybe go to that place, whether it's in your sunroom, maybe it's in your office, maybe it's at a coffee shop. But the more that you can kind of get into the tone of voice of your business and come at it, we always say, from your best day, come at it from your best day and really write that text, that'll come across. Where if you do write it from a grumpy place, that comes across as well. And so, and you will find that as you schedule things out, the first post or 2 might take you a while, but then once you kind of get in the groove, you may be able to plan out a whole month in about 2 or 3 hours. So that's a pretty realistic time frame to set aside. But if you only have to do it once a month, you should be able to find that 2 or 3 hours to set aside, knowing that that's going to save you so much time on your day-to-day time frame. Now, if you really are creating custom graphics, if you're really taking the photos, that's going to take a little bit of extra time. But once you have the text created, then maybe it's just going around with your cell phone and taking those pictures or creating those videos, and it's going to save you a lot of time in the long run. So let's say between the photos writing, finding the links, reading the articles. It might take you, let's say, 6 hours a month to create a very strong social media strategy that is going to help your business grow and achieve your goals. And if you don't have that time, it may be really deciding. Maybe that's something that you have an employee that can take that on for you. Maybe that's a skill they have. But just know that it does take that time. It really does take, I would say, anywhere from 5 to 10 hours a month. So if that's something that you're asking an employee to do, make sure that you're allowing them time on the clock to be able to do that, or you're scheduling that time for them. It's a big enough job that oftentimes it gets added to someone's plate. Hey, in your free time, you need to do our social media. And if you do it that way, that's when it really turns into that fast food, just, oh, I find something, I better post it. And that really isn't helping your business grow or achieve your goals. And so if you can't devote that 5 to 10 hours a month and you want to pass it off to an intern, maybe you have a high school, maybe you have a child of yours that's a high school or college student, even a junior high student. Maybe they could take this on, but just make sure that whoever does is doing this as a lesson plan or a meal plan or a strategy. They're not just randomly posting, and they can come back to you. So if you do pass this on, whether it's to a professional agency that's doing this for you, to your niece that's wanting to earn some extra income, to an employee, make sure that you're reviewing this calendar and that the tone of voice sounds like you. Make sure that you're reviewing the content that they're posting, the photos that they're posting. You need to at least be a part of that approval process, because what you don't want is you don't want to pass this on to a niece. They post everything and then all of a sudden things are either incorrect or they don't sound like you, or maybe they're posting something that's already sold out. So just know that ideally the business owner should do it themselves, because that's how you can guarantee that it's correct. But we also know that it's hard as a business owner to find the time and to devote the mental energy to do this correctly. So it's okay to pass this off, but just know that even as you pass it off, you still need to approve it to ensure that your business, at the end of the day, it's your business, and you need to make sure that what's going out represents your business well. So we have about 15 minutes left today. We got through that pretty quickly, and I really encourage you, even today while you're thinking about it, to go to native360.org, click on the small business tools, go under the initiate program. If you haven't created a login, it really only takes about 2 minutes. Log into your account and you can find these resources. There's even a social media calendar template on the Initiate series that you can download and start using today. And so these are free tools provided for you from P. Upton and Native 360. And so I'd really encourage you to use these tools. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Now, while you guys are thinking of your questions, one question we get asked a lot is about scheduling. And that is something that you can do. Facebook does it the easiest, and now Instagram and Facebook are the same company, so they do have some nice scheduling things. There are other platforms. One of them is called Hootsuite, where you can pay maybe $9.99 a month and you can schedule your post out. Now, companies like Hootsuite don't get the engagement, they don't get the traction that doing it directly through the app does. It's kind of that third party. And so it's not as ideal as scheduling it on the platform themselves. But if it helps you get it done, if it's between using an app like Hootsuite to do it, to give you those tools, or not doing it at all, you're still going to be better off using these third party platforms. But the next step after you plan out your calendar would be to really schedule, and you can schedule a full month out. Now, just like I said, if you have someone outsourcing, if you're paying someone to help you create the content and create your calendar, that's great. And as I reminded you, you still need to review the content. The same thing goes to if you schedule everything out. let's say that you schedule things out a month in advance, and these are things that are not changing. Now, obviously, if you have a daily special or something like that, you're going to have to be doing that more on a daily basis. But if you're just talking about your who, what, where, when, why, things that aren't changing, things you would have on your website, those are things you can schedule out in advance. But we always recommend keeping on top of those because something might change. Let's say that you have something that says that's scheduled out for 2 weeks from now, and it says, come join us today for this sale. But let's say that that day turns into a snow day. So that's something that when you schedule it, you still have to stay on top of it. If something changes, you need to be on top of that and make sure that you change the post, either delete it, move the day. That's one nice thing about scheduling is even once something's scheduled, you can still edit it and change it. So just be aware that if you post something and then again, because of weather, because of maybe you run out of something, because if maybe you have a sick day, just remember that you're going to want to make sure that you change that as well. The last piece I want to talk about are cherry on top posts. Now, we always recommend having a schedule just because then as an entrepreneur, you can take that off your plate and that's not consuming your time or your effort. But let's say that you have a strategy planned out for the next month. And let's say you have 3 posts a week going out for the next month and you feel really great about it. But you're still going to want these cherry on top posts. And we call those things that just happen. Let's say that your best friend from elementary school comes all the way from California and they come in your store and they surprise you. That would be a good post to take a picture with your cell phone and share that story and post it right then. So, and that's going to really keep that personable, that organic feel on your page. And so if there's something that's just really fun, that's maybe community driven, that's unique, maybe you have a ton of snow and you want to take a picture of your storefront with snow all the way up to the middle of the door. Those posts are not only allowed, but encouraged. And so we really think of our strategy, our social media planning as kind of the foundation. And then anything else you post that happens that day, a birthday, an anniversary, a celebrity walks in, something funny happened. Maybe you get a UPS delivery and you get 100 boxes delivered and they're taller than you. That's a good thing to post even on top of what's already scheduled. And it's okay if you already have something scheduled that day, just post this as well. It's okay to have 2 posts in one day, especially if one of them is organic and funny. And typically those cherry on top posts, those birthdays, those anniversaries, the funny things, maybe you have an office cat that sleeps in the window and they look super cute one day. Those posts often get more engagement than the best other content we can provide. So we can work so hard to create an article or an image or something that's pre-planned. And then you post a picture of funny socks someone's wearing, and 9 times out of 10, that post will get more engagement. And that just goes to show that at the end of the day, we're all people and we do like seeing those personable things. As much as we care about the upcoming service line you're offering and the sales you're offering, we also just want to see behind the scenes and we want to know that people are people. And at the end of the day, that's what social media is about, is really just connecting us. And so don't forget about those posts that truly just connect you to your community, connect you to your target market, connect you to your employees, because those posts are important as well. But those posts feel more real when they're done the day they happen and not scheduled out. All right, we have just a few minutes left. Are there any questions or anything that anyone else would like me to cover? All right. I'm going to give you one idea for this holiday season if you don't know what to post. Okay, so the first thing I would start with is your who, what, where, when, why. That could be 5 posts. And they don't have to be very long. Just a very simple, who are you? What do you do? Where is your business located? Why do you do what you do? Why do you come to work in the morning? Why should people come visit you? That would be 5 very simple posts. And you could even break each of those posts into multiple posts if you wanted to. When we talk about the who, you could do an employee spotlight for every single person working for you. So if you have 5 employees, that's 5 posts right there. Talk about who they are, why you love that they work for you, maybe a fun fact that people don't know about them, maybe what's their favorite sports team or where they like to travel to. Those are some simple posts that people care about. It also makes your employees feel valued. So when they can share to their own personal page that their boss just said, hey, we want to give an employee spotlight today to Bob. He does an amazing job every day. He's always willing to go above and beyond and lend a hand to anyone who needs him. That public recognition goes a long way. And so those are some very simple posts you can think about. The other thing is doing something good for your community. So it's getting cold outside. And one idea for a post would be pretty much every type of crisis center, homeless center, even elementary schools right now can use socks or mittens or gloves or coats, maybe gently used shoes. Those are things that are all needed right now. So, for example, here at Tally, we do social media management for a dental office. Well, it was winter time and they decided they were going to do a sock drive. So they were just getting socks and they were going to donate them to the Heartland United Way, which would then distribute them to homeless shelters and other organizations that needed socks. And so they just had a simple sock drive. They put a box in their lobby, but that turned into a whole social media campaign because to promote it, their staff at this dental office would wear funny socks. And so they would start taking pictures and then they had a competition on who could wear the funniest socks. Then they started having challenges that if you brought in a pair of socks to donate, you got entered into a drawing. And then they started showing pictures of this box of socks that were overflowing. So sometimes people think too industry specific. You can think, well, I'm a dental office, so everything I do must have to be about teeth or hygiene or flossing or dental. And while obviously a dentist is an expert in that, they also are a person and they care about the homeless population and they care that these kiddos don't have cold feet. And so doing a sock drive is a very simple way to not only give back to your community, but to cause some engagement and some buzz and something fun to post about on social media. So think about that. Maybe there's an organization that you care about that you could put a box in your lobby and that you could have people donate to. Maybe it's a medical thing. Maybe it's Bones for the Dog Shelter. Maybe it's whatever it is. Think about what's important to you. And that's another topic that could really help kickstart your social media planning. All right, with just 4 minutes left here, I'm happy to stick around for any questions. Next week, we're going to talk about setting SMART goals. Next week is the last week of this 8-part series. So please let me know, let Pete Upton know if this was helpful to you, if there's other topics you'd like in a future series, and let us know what success stories you've had from this series. If there's something that you've implemented that has helped your business, we'd love to hear those stories too. That always just helps as we share this message. So I'm happy to stick on. And if not, I really thank you guys for joining us today. And I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at 9 o'clock as we talk about setting our SMART goals. I'd love for you guys to come next week with some ideas, maybe some rough numbers of maybe what your last month looked like, maybe your last quarter, your last year. Now, your goals, they don't have to be financial, but they might be. And so start thinking about some of those goals, whether you want your goals to be financial, maybe you want them to be number of customers, maybe you want them to be in different areas. So if you do have a business partner, a spouse, coworkers, this week I really challenge you to start thinking about what those goals might look like, or maybe what goals you've set in the past. And then next week, we'll spend the whole hour really diving into those goals and setting some goals that you could either put in practice right now, or maybe will kickstart your new year. So Pete, do you have anything to add?
No, I've just been having issues with my internet, as you know, Julie.
Yes.
It's very weak.
Okay, we'll
And it
come get
keeps
that
spinning.
fixed for you.
Yeah, so my screen spins after a while.
Oh, no.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay, well, we'll share
So-
the recording with you if you ever want to go
Okay.
back and see those slides. All right, well, thank you so much, everyone. We look forward to seeing you next Monday at 9 o'clock for our last class. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yep.